NFL free agency has essentially concluded, and a lot of huge moves have occurred that have just impacted the league in a variety of ways. Much more changes happened than I predicted, and I really didn't have the greatest of predictions looking back on it, but whatever. This offseason was insane. Now today I'm going to be reviewing every single NFL team's offseason thus far. So every notable signing, cut, and trade will be discussed in some form throughout this video. Now to clarify, I am going to be considering what each team had to work with going into the offseason. So let's say a team that didn't have much cap space didn't sign a top tier free agent. I'm not going to knock them for it because they physically could not do it without getting rid of key pieces. So before I get to each team, I'm quickly going to elaborate on my grading scale. The A range means I essentially loved everything that the team did. The B range means I liked mostly everything, though there might be some duds in there, but overall I liked it. The C range, it means that it was fine, not good, not bad, just pretty meh. It should be like no-brainer moves that are in there also. This is an average grade. It's not bad, it's not good. It just means they were okay. The D range means I disliked everything, and there might be some good in there, but overall it was not a good sign from me. And getting an F means that I just hated everything. That's pretty explainable. Hopefully that clears up any confusion you may have with the grades that I give out. I'm not the type to just hand out A pluses and Fs like crazy. I'm going to critique everything in some way. So I hope you understand what I'm getting at, but with all that being said, let's just get right into these grades because this is going to be a long video. So sit back, relax, get some popcorn, get a snack, whatever works for you. Just enjoy what I have to say. So we're just going to be going in alphabetical order, so I'm not going to be going by grade scale. So at the top of it all, we have the Arizona Cardinals. Now, this is a good place to start off on because they just robbed the Texans of DeAndre Hopkins. Adding Hopkins to this wide receiver room is going to be huge for Cliff Kingsbury's offense and the development of Kyler Murray. Their wide receiver group isn't the best. It's all right. Christian Kirk is okay. Larry Fitzgerald is getting up there in age, obviously. And they drafted a lot, I think 3 receivers last year. So they have a lot of bodies, but the Cardinals run so many 3 wide receiver sets that they need that number 1 target, and they got it in DeAndre Hopkins. And there was a lot of people mocking CeeDee Lamb to them because, the Kyler connection. Also, they need that bona fide number 1 receiver. And, it just seemed like it was going to happen. But with this trade, I don't think that's going to be the case anymore. Now, you could just throw him in there and get Lamb on this offense and then just have a hell of a time. But I don't think it's that necessary now. Get yourself a tackle. Get yourself a defensive lineman. Just make this roster more overall quality. Not just make one position group overpowered, if you get what I'm saying. And to just get Hopkins for a 2nd round pick and a 4th, I guess. But you're getting a 4th back. And you get rid of David Johnson's garbage contract. Like, what? There are so many teams that would have paid more than that for DeAndre Hopkins. So honestly, AZ, great job getting Hopkins. That was a home run in every sense. That's honestly one of the most lopsided trades in NFL history to get him for less than a 1st round pick. Because when I first saw the trade, I thought it was going to be number 8 overall was going to be in it, but I guess not. So great job getting Hopkins, but let's just move on. So they also picked up some defensive line help. They got Jordan Phillips from the Bills. He's a good interior defensive lineman. He's going to help shore up that god-awful front, and I don't think it fixes anything, but that front 7's not very good other than Chandler Jones, and I guess Zach Allen's pretty solid, but he's not anything to write home about. They also got a linebacker with Devondre Campbell, who's solid, but he doesn't really thread or do anything anything different for me. And they also got Devon Kennard from the Lions, who's a surprise cut, and they picked him up. So that linebacker room is better than it was last year because they had Hassan Reddick and Jordan Hicks. And I mean, those guys aren't great. I mean, Jordan Hicks is good, but he's injury prone like crazy. So honestly, it's an upgrade, but it's still not ideal, if you get what I'm saying. If someone like Isaiah Simmons, which you all know, if you saw my mock draft, I'm in love with, if he falls to 8, I would take him. And I think they're also in prime place to take Javon Kinlaw, who I've ranked as my favorite defensive lineman in the class. So if one of those guys is available at 8, I would take him. I'd also go for a tackle, if possible, like Jedrick Wills, because you gotta protect Kyler. Like, that's so important. But great job adding talent. They lost Damiere Byrd, Pharoh Cooper. I mean, who cares? They're just bodies. And then they retained Kenyon Drake on the transition tag, which I honestly agree with. He was very good for them when they traded for him. They extended DJ Humphries to a really big contract. I think it was a bit of an overpay. That's why I kind of knocked their grade just a tad. But he's kind of injury prone, so I don't know. It's just a bit of an overpay to me. They brought back Larry Fitzgerald in a 1 year. Makes sense to me. They brought back Marcus Gilbert, who's all right. I mean, they didn't pay much, so I can't really say anything on that. And then they brought back Brett Hundley, who won them a game against Seattle. He's a solid backup quarterback. So honestly, Cardinals, you did a fantastic job this free agency. So I'm going to give you an A. Just knocking you from that A+ because of the Humphries extension. And I think you could have done a little more to shore up that defense because you just kind of picked up some guys in Jordan Phillips. But overall, fantastic job. I hope you kill this draft because your team could be really deadly next year. So, yeah, it's going to be an A. The Rams. First, you unveil this logo. And this logo is just hideous. I hate it. Everyone hates it, and they're not changing it. So, let's just move on from that. But here's what you lost. You lost Dante Fowler, Clay Matthews, Corey Littleton, Nickel Roby-Coleman, Eric Weddle, who retired, so I won't put too much into that. And you lost your kicker. You brought back Andrew Whitworth. He's just going to play till his legs collapse on him. And you also signed Michael Brockers, who it seems like his deal fell through with the Ravens because of a physical, it sounds like. So you pay him pretty much the same deal that the Ravens paid him. Why? You could have gotten so much value on the open market. The open market is having these interior defensive linemen, go for really cheap. But you decide to pay A'Shawn Robinson and Michael Brockers these big deals. I don't understand it. And then you pay Leonard Floyd like $10 million, which is ridiculous. The Rams have lost a lot. Like, just use that money that you spent on Robinson, Floyd, and Brockers, bring back Littleton, and bring back Fowler. Like, you're fine then. But no, I guess not. Rams are getting enough. I didn't like what they did at all. From the logo to the roster construction. They have no first round pick this year and no first round pick next year. They're going to have to trade somebody. I also forgot to put Todd Gurley on this list. You cut Todd Gurley and absorb all that dead money. Man, yeah, you're getting an F. You're getting an F. It's just laughable. You know, the Rams were just in the Super Bowl, and now they're looking like they're probably going to finish last in their division. Man, what a fall from grace. The 49ers. So the Niners didn't have a lot of money. How they used it is they re-signed Jimmy Ward, which I agree with. Jimmy Ward was awesome for them last year. And they brought back Eric Armstead. They paid him like crazy, though, for 1 year of really good play. They didn't bring back Emmanuel Sanders, which I thought was a real possibility considering that they traded DeForest Buckner. So I guess them having the 13th overall pick kind of ices the wound of them feeling like they need to bring back Sanders, but their defensive line is not nearly as scary as it was. Buckner was easily the best player on that line last year. Now, you could argue Bosa was better, but I think Buckner was the best piece on that line, and he was consistently great for the Niners over his years, and Armstead just wasn't. He's only had like 1 year under his belt, and that was only when Bosa and D Ford came in. Is he a product of having really good players around him? We'll see. The Niners usually, they'll figure it out. Their defense is still great. It's just not as scary, if you get what I'm saying, because losing Buckner is huge. But that 13th overall pick is also huge for say. They could get an offensive playmaker like Henry Ruggs, Jerry Jeudy, or CeeDee Lamb at that spot, which is just going to be fantastic for their offense because they need a playmaker because their wide receiver group isn't that great. If they get someone like Ruggs in there, oh my God, that offense is just unfair. But overall, the Niners, they got really good value for Buckner, but I would have paid Buckner over Armstead if I were the Niners personally. But I see why they did it. You can only pay one, and they just decided to go with Armstead, and Armstead was very good for his own right last year, so I'm not going to knock them on that. So I'm going to give them a B. I think they're not the heavy favorite in the NFC. I think the NFC is wide open this year, but we'll see what they do with that 13th pick. I'm guessing it'll be a wide receiver of one of those big three, and if none of them are there, or like Kinlaw isn't there, I think they'll trade back. Onto their rivals, the Seattle Seahawks. They didn't really do much. It seems like they're losing Jadeveon Clowney, which isn't very good. Quentin Jefferson, losing him for the price tag that he was lost for, sucks. He's so underrated. They signed Greg Olsen. Whatever. He's way too old. Philip Dorsett. Jerron Reed, that was a good deal. I like that. The Quentin Dunbar trade was awesome, though. A 5th round pick for him. He fits perfect for what Seattle likes in their corners. So getting him for only a 5th is ridiculous. And I think PFF had him ranked as like their second corner from 2019. Now, he's not the second best corner in the NFL at all, but getting him for a 5th is awesome for them. And I think Seattle had an okay offseason. I'm going to give him a C. It was pretty average. Maybe a C- because they're losing Clowney. So they still have a lot of holes, but Russell Wilson makes them good enough to win. So, I don't know, man. We'll see how their draft goes. They usually have really weird drafts, and they somehow still make it work. Denver Broncos, I've loved what they've done so far. They traded for A.J. Bouye for the 4th round pick. Makes sense to me. They were going to lose Chris Harris Jr. because he wanted out, so yeah, I don't blame him for doing that trade. Getting Jarrell Casey for a 7th is awesome value. Great on them for getting him. Signing Melvin Gordon to that big deal is kind of... I don't like that. You know, you kind of just give up on Royce Freeman, which you spent a 3rd on like 2 years, or 2? Yeah, it was like 2 years ago. And getting Graham Glasnow. Great pickup. Loved it. He's going to slot right into that offensive line, which they need. They cut Joe Flacco. Obvious. Lost Chris Harris, which he was going to leave anyways. Derek Wolfe. Connor McGovern. Will Parks. I mean, I don't blame him for letting him go. None of these guys really scream to me to bring back. Maybe Derek Wolfe, but they managed to bring back Shelby Harris on a very good contract. So I love that. And the trade for Jarrell Casey just makes up for Derek Wolfe. So honestly, I love what the Broncos have done. They also franchise tagged Justin Simmons, which I for some reason forgot to put on the graphic. But yeah, love what the Broncos did. A-. I'm going to just quickly brush over the Chiefs. You franchise tagged Chris Jones. Easy decision. Restructured Sammy Watkins. Makes total sense. Brought back Demarcus Robinson and Damian Williams. Just keeping that offense intact, which is what they should have done in the first place. You lost Kendall Fuller. You lost Emmanuel Ogbah. But who cares? You just won a Super Bowl. You needed to let them go in order to franchise tag Chris Jones. You have like $100 in cap space. So they have to make some room before the draft because they do have to sign draft picks. But I'm just giving them a C. I mean, it's all the no-brainer moves. You just won a Super Bowl. This grade is fine. Don't worry about it. You're making the right decisions. It's just nothing outstanding. It's what you should be doing. The Las Vegas Raiders. So you lost Carl Joseph and Tahir Whitehead. No big deal. They weren't doing anything good for you. But you do bring in Corey Littleton, and I love that deal for them. Corey Littleton is a great coverage linebacker. I'm surprised the Rams let him go with the contracts that they handed out. Great value for them. Their linebacker group was just not good. And they also added Nick Kwiatkowski, who's a very nice complimentary linebacker, who's a smart guy. He played exceptionally well for the Bears when Danny Trevathan went out. So I like what they did with the linebacker group. They brought in Marcus Mariota, who is a very good backup to put behind Derek Carr, to put some pressure on him to perform well next year. They brought in also Carl Nassib to sit behind Max Crosby and Cleveland Farrell, and edge depth, don't blame them. I mean, their edge group isn't that special, so yeah, I get it. They also brought in Demarius Randall, who's not good. Are you going to play him at corner, or are you going to play him at safety? Because Joyner is not good in the slot. So, but also Demarius Randall isn't good as an outside corner. If you watch him in Green Bay, you'll know why. They also brought in Jason Witten. Okay. I mean, as a mentor, I guess you're trying to embrace that all broadcast booth team. I mean, which is fun, but overall, Raiders are going to get a B. I'm going to give them a B. They still have a lot of holes, especially at corner. Apparently, they were really in on Byron Jones, Chris Harris, and Darius Slay, and they missed out on all of them, which sucks, but hopefully you get a guy in the draft. If somehow you could trade up for Jeff Okudah, that would be huge for them. But they also need a wide receiver. But this class is so deep with them. Actually, I don't think they have a second round. Yeah, the Bears have their second round pick. So they probably can't trade this year. Yeah, they can't trade this year's second to get into the top 10 if Okudah starts falling. Hopefully the draft can somewhat fill those for them. Because I don't think Trayvon Mullen is going to be in a good spot next year if he has those corners with him. And I mean, Joyner and Randall as corner options are not going to be anything special, so you shouldn't be hoping for much out of them. On to the Chargers. I loved what the Chargers did. Like I said with Brian Bulaga, they got him at a very nice contract. Trading Okun for Try Turner was awesome. Picking up Chris Harris Jr. is fantastic. That secondary is nasty. Now, apparently they're looking at trading Desmond King, which makes total sense because Chris Harris Jr. should be playing that slot corner role, which is where he plays best. So trading Desmond King makes total sense to me if you're trying to go all in, which they clearly are. They also picked up Linval Joseph. They needed interior defensive line help. They ended up losing Phillip Rivers, which we already know about. Melvin Gordon, which after a failed holdout attempt, I don't blame him for letting him go. They ended up extending Austin Eckler for... See, I'm not big on extending running backs or paying running backs per se, but his deal was in the range of something I'm comfortable with. I'm not in love with doing it, but it makes sense. So if you can get a really good running back at that price tag, I think that's all right. You know, it's all right. Eckler was awesome for them last year, so I think it's okay. I don't love it, but I don't hate it. They also lost Adrian Phillips, and he got paid like nothing by the Patriots, which they could have brought him back. But maybe they're looking into someone like Cam Newton. I really hope they're not hoping that Tyrod Taylor is their starting quarterback, but I also hope that they're not looking at Justin Herbert to be their starting quarterback next year because I'm not that big on Herbert. The Chargers are in a weird spot. Maybe they're going to get Cam Newton. We don't really know. It seems like he's the favorite, or they're the favorite to land Newton. So we'll see how that goes. They still need help on the left tackle spot. So maybe they end up going with a tackle. Who knows? They could go tackle, and if Jordan Love starts to fall, they trade up for Jordan Love. That could be interesting. or they could just go Isaiah Simmons and have the most overpowered defense in football. Yeah, Chargers are going to get an A-. I liked pretty much all of what they did. The Eckler extension was kind of whatever. It's all right. And then losing Phillips sucks. I think they could have gotten him back on that deal. I know that's kind of counterintuitive with Adderley and Derwin. And if you're especially looking at Simmons, then yeah, let him go. But if you're not looking at Simmons and it's sounding like they're not, he's just a really good football player. Thank you for watching this part of a 4-part series where I'm going to be grading every NFL team's offseason moves thus far. If you haven't already, please like the video down below and subscribe to All Sports Culture on YouTube. We have a lot of things coming in store, including the next mock draft, which is going to include trades, so hopefully you guys stick around to see that. Check out the other parts of this series if you haven't already. Make sure you also follow All Sports Culture on Instagram and all of our other socials at All Sport Culture. My name's been Sam from All Sports Culture, and I'll see you all in the next one.